Hello everyone, welcome to my updated Ryu-ge deck profile, and if you saw from the title, it is Ryu-ge Yummy this time, and I will get into why I believe Yummy is the best way to play Ryu-ge post-release of, not even just Doom of Dimensions, but Justice Hunters. But to start, I will get into the Ryu-ge cards themselves, because we should all know this by this point. I've made so many videos about this deck. We will be starting with the starters, which is the 3 Mistva, 3 Ryu-ge Rising, 3 Ryu-ge Warzone, 3 Melody of Awakening Dragon. These are our 12 starters. We are running the small package that allows us to turn Warzone into a 1-card starter. So these are all 1-card starters. Super nice. All really high quality. All don't take your normal summon, so none of them conflict with the Yummy cards. Sick, nice, we love to see it. After that, we have our Ryu-ge monsters. We have, besides Mista, I suppose, we have our 3 Ryu-ge Anva, 2 Ryu-ge Emva, 2 Ryu-ge Hakuba, and 1 Ryu-ge Kaiba. So this is all pretty standard. The one thing that is maybe different to lists you've seen is I am in fact playing Kaiba. That's because I'm not playing the Jurak cards. If you're playing pure, or not even just pure, but a build of the deck that isn't already on a hybrid, you have to play all of these names. Kaiba you can play at 1 because it can shuffle itself back. Pretty standard stuff. Anva's still a really good card for making sure Ryu-ge cards resolve. Also really good going second as a board breaker if you pair it with any Ryu-ge name. Love to see it. Very good cards. Then we have our Ryu-ge spell traps. Besides the starters, we've got 1 of each of our realms and 1 Ryu-ge rivalry. You may notice the only card I'm not playing here is Ryu-ge End. I do not think that card is necessary unless you are playing the Jurak build because of the special synergies that has and because you're blowing a bunch of your stuff up constantly. Unless you're playing that build, it's really not necessary. Especially because the ceiling of this build on average should be really high, so you should really not need it. It's another brick that you don't want to be playing, so we're not playing it. I think all these other cards are necessary. These turn all your Ryu-ge names in hand into less bad bricks, and Ryu-ge Rivalry is independently a really good card that is also gettable off your Mistfa and off of another card like Thrust, which, spoiler, is later in the list. And then, card that's been missing from most of our Ryu-ge lists, the 1 Carbonen and the 1 Galaxy Serpent. So these are the cards that allow our Warzone to be a 1-card starter. Basically, you would add Hakuba, send Carbonen, banish Emva, and then you would use the Hakuba to banish itself, get Wyrmwinds, banish Carbonen to summon Galaxy Serpent. That lets you resummon the Hakuba. Then you can synchro them off for the Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, and then you can use your Warzone now that you have 3 things in... Or sorry, you can use Hakuba to bottom deck Wyrmwinds, search Mistfa, then Mistfa to get Rivalry, then synchro them off. Then you have everything in the zones you need and Mistfa and the extra to then Warzone do everything, right? So that does the full combo. But you do need these cards to do it, or at least a monster that can banish itself from grave. Now on to the new part of the deck, which is the Yummy cards. I will start with our Yummy main deck monsters, and they are all starters. The 3 Marshmallow Yummy, 3 Cupsy Yummy, 3 Cookie Yummy, and 3 Lollipo Yummy. So all of these cards are 1-card starters, and I will be showing off the 1-card Yummy combo at the end of this video. But basically, all of these cards are 1-card Yummy combo and 1-card Ryu-ge combo, which is insane. Marshmallow can do it without your normal summon. Cupsy lets you search out your Yummy Surprise. Cookie is a pop on summon if someone with a synchro, and Lollipo messes with the graveyard. All really good cards. Fantastic card quality. The other reason, and the reason we're maxing out on all of these cards, is that these are all really good into Droll and Lockbird. If you don't immediately search with Cupsy, all of these starters play super well into Droll. You get to end on Cupsy with at least most of your Yummy monsters in rotation, plus Herald of the Arclight on board, which is like 4 Interruptions, I believe. Super important for this deck, because this deck is really not good into Droll. And unfortunately, the Jurax stuff was way less consistent when it came to beating Droll, because there was only 6 starters for that engine that didn't lose to Droll. All of these are starters that don't lose to Droll, and spoiler alert, we have more starters coming up for this engine that also do not lose to Droll. So, love this engine. It feels super good. And also, if you have ever played Mitsui Yummy, this deck has a lot of the same theory behind it in terms of, Ritual Yummy synergies. Then for our Yummy spell traps, as in spells, we have 1 Mignon and 1 Surprise. Surprise is your search off of your Cupsy, and Mignon is your get off of Snatchy. They're the only 2 bricks in the Yummy engine you have to play, and even then, Surprise is like very loosely a brick. Then for one of starters, we've got 1-for-1 and Obedience Schooled. 1-for-1 is a starter that can pitch one of our Ryu-ge bricks, which we have many of, out of the hand to then get a Yummy starter. Super good, plays around Droll. And then Obedience Schooled, which is a weird card because on one hand, it does conflict with the Ryu-ge cards. However, it also is a 1-card starter that is insane. It can be used as long as you are not Ryu-ge locked, which usually you're not going to get Ryu-ge locked until if you get Ryu-ge locked, you are probably able to break your opponent's board anyway because you have resolved a Ryu-ge combo. Obedience Schooled is really good for when the Ryu-ge combo gets stopped and you need that extra extender. Super good for that. It is also a starter that plays around Droll, so this gives us 14 starters that play around Droll, which is crazy. I could not have imagined that for Ryu-ge in a million years. Then for our power spells, we've got 3 Triple Tactics Thrust, 1 Talents, 1 Called By, and 1 Cross Out. All these cards are really good into hand traps. Thrust is particularly good going second into whatever. It's just more, it's another starter, or it gets us to Talents. Really good card. Duh, Thrust is crazy. Also can play with a bunch of nice stuff in the side. I don't have a side for this video, but I will recommend some stuff you could be playing in the side at the end of the profile. Or actually, I'll just do it at the end of the main deck. Then for our hand traps, we've got 3 Fua, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Ash Blossom, and 3 Ghost Bell. I just think these are the 12 best hand traps in the format right now. These 6 are really good in a Draco Tail. These 6 are really good in a Mitsui Yummy. Really as simple as that. That puts our main deck to 60. Couldn't do Ryu-ge any other way. You know it. For cards I would recommend for the side deck, there's really only 2 that I think are super nice. End is a nice card to have into particular matchups, specifically matchups that have a lot of removal. For Anva specifically, if Anva gets popped, it is really nice to have End. It is absolutely not required, though. The card that I do think is required for the side deck is a Croaky, the other Yummy field spell. It allows you to have a little bit of a higher ceiling end board for if you get Drolled or post-side Lancia'd on your Ryu-ge engine. Having an extra ceiling increase on your Yummy stuff is super, super nice. So, absolutely recommend it. Then, for our extra deck, we've got, for our Yummy cards, 2 Yummy Snatchy, and then 1 of each Yummy Synchro. Pretty standard stuff here. The only thing is we're on 2 Snatchy instead of 3. Truthfully, 1, I don't own 3 Snatchy, but also, you don't really need 3. 2 can absolutely work. You just have to be smart about how you use them. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you can absolutely play a 3rd one. Then we are on 1 Herald of the Arclight and 1 Shamisen Samsara Sorrow Cat. That is a tongue twister. Herald is needed for so many reasons. It's the best interruption on the Yummy board, and it is your way you are bridging into Ryu-ge. And then Sorrow Cat is the way you are able to end on Herald after bridging into Ryu-ge. Then we've got our utility Link ones. We've got 1 Link Spider, 1 All Mirage, 1 Gravity Controller, and 1 Link Kuriboh. So I would recommend cutting Olmirage or Link Karibo if you want to play a second or a third Snatchy. However, Link Spider and Gravity Controller are mandatory, I would argue. Link Spider is super useful for beating Nibiru. It doesn't... You can deal with Nibiru okay without Link Spider, but it makes it so much easier if you play Link Spider, because you can link one off the the Nib token, and then you can summon whatever yummy monsters you have in the hand. Feels really nice. And then Gravity Controller you need to link off the Herald. You're going to summon this into the extra monster zone and then link it off for Gravity Controller, and then Herald can search your Mistva. Then Olmirage is really good for linking off hand traps. Specifically, it can link off all the hand traps you play into this deck. So going first, if you draw like a Fua, it's really nice to be able to go normal Fua, link the Fua, and then summon a yummy name. And then link 2 for like, what is it? Cupsy. It's really, really nice to be able to do. Or even like link 1 for Snatchy and then use the Snatchy effect. There's like a few things, but it basically means your combo never loses to Imperm. Then we have the Link Karibo, which is good for setting up basically stopping an attack on your Herald that you end on. Because Herald in some matchups is so unbelievably good, but your opponent could theoretically run it over by battle. If you have Link Karibo, that's just not an option anymore. It's also just a good Link 1 to have sometimes. It's an extra Link 1. Then for our Ryu-ge extra deck monsters, we're on 1 Varudross, the most important one, part of our end board. 1 Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, also really important. This card comes up not only to make with Galaxy Serpent, but you can also make it with any Yummy Synchro and a Ryu-ge name, which is super nice. 1 Seals, which comes up occasionally. You can basically use this as a replacement for Ryu-ge Rivalry by linking off Anva and the Galaxy Serpent into this, or the Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon. That's it for our Ryu-ge extract monsters, and then we are on 1 SP Little Knight, just as a really good utility card. We're on a ton of Link 1s, so this card feels really nice. And now, I will show off the 1-card Yummy Ryu-ge combo, and it is going to be starting with what I believe is the lowest power Yummy name to start with, which is Cookie. Maybe not lowest power, I guess Lollipop would be the lowest power, but Cookie's effectively a vanilla, so, you know, I'll start with this one. We'll start with just Cookie. I am going to say we're going to have Cookie and another card in hand, just to make this easy, because we would have 4 other cards in our hand realistically. So I'm going to play this realistically, where we have 4 other cards in our hand. We're going to go normal Cookie Yummy, link 1 for Cookie Yummy into our Yummy Snatchy. Yummy Snatchy is going to place from our deck our Yummy Mignon. Mignon is able to target our Cookie to bring it back from grave. We're then able to synchro with these 2 to make our Cupsy Yummy Way. Cupsy Yummy Way is able to search 2 yummy monsters from our deck. We're going to grab our Marshmallow and our Cupsy, and then we're going to discard the extra card in our hand. Then we're going to go Effective Marshmallow to summon itself, and then Special Cupsy, Cupsy Effect to search Surprise. We're then going to link 1 for our second Yummy Snatchy, and then synchro our Snatchy and our Marshmallow for the Lollipop Yummy Way. Lollipop is able to bring back 2 yummy names. We'll bring back the Cupsy and the Cookie. Then we will sync these 2 off into our Samsara Sorrow Cat. This is to get the Sorrow Cat into the graveyard. We're then going to sync these 2 monsters off for our Herald of the Arclight. Make sure to make it in the extra monster zone. We're then going to link 1 for our Gravity Controller. Herald will then trigger, allowing us to search out our Ryu-ge Mistva. We're then going to go Sorrow Cat effect to put back the Herald of the Arclight to summon itself, and then it will be banished when it leaves the field. Then we'll use our Yummy Surprise to summon back our Marshmallow Yummy. Marshmallow's effect will trigger on summon to add the surprise right back to our hand, so we effectively lost nothing. And then we'll synchro with these two to make the Herald of the Arclight. So this is where things get weird. And I will show you, I guess this isn't where things get weird, but Herald of the Arclight messes with the Ryu-ge combo in a way you might not expect. So we'll scale our Mistva. We'll use our Mistva's effect to pop itself to search out our copy of Ryu-ge Warzone. And then we are going to activate Warzone. Now, Herald of the Arclight says that any monster sent from the hand or deck to grave is banished instead. So what this means is Warzone would add a monster, and then it would banish the other two monsters we send instead of sending one to grave and banishing the other. Thankfully, Warzone can still resolve because it does this for effect, so it is still able to resolve. It just means we are going to have to do this combo in kind of an awkward way, but it is still functional. We're going to grab Emva into our hand, Hakva, and Kaiva will then get banished. The reason we add Emva is because now we can go Emva effect to discard itself, which will get banished because of Arclight's effect, to search our Ryu-ge Sea Spires. That will then trigger the effect of Hakva to summon itself, because a second monster was banished. Oh, I did forget to banish the Sorrow Cat. Now, you might be wondering, how do we get this Hakva into the grave? Well, Cupsy Yummy Way is a level 2 tuner, so we are going to use the Cupsy Yummy Way and the Hakva to make our copy of Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon. Now we have a Ryu-ge monster in grave, banish, and deck. So we are able to use the effect of Warzone to summon Hakva, Emva, and Anva. One thing I want to note is that this combo is also kind of nice because we get to have Kaiva in our banished zone. So Warzone on the next turn is going to be able to summon, is it going to be able to do the whole combo again because we have a banished Ryu-ge monster. So one of our Ryu-ge's will be in grave, we'll still have an Anva or two in deck, and then Kaiva will be banished. So we'll be able to do it all over again as long as Warzone stays on the field. We'll then use Anva's effect on summon to target itself to pop itself. That will then trigger its effect to place a copy of Ryu-ge Worm Winds from our deck to the field. We'll then activate Worm Winds, and then use Hakva to bottom deck Worm Winds and search a copy of Ryu-ge Rivalry. Next, we'll go ahead and Xyz with these two to make our Varudros. And then we will set to and activate our Sea Spires. Then we will pass turn here. So, this is a negate on the Varudros, a grave or field move to the back row with the Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, the Floodgate effect of Herald, and the negate effect of Herald. So right there, that's like 4 interruptions. Then we can go Yummy Surprise. Actually, you probably want to sequence it like this. We're going to go Ryu-ge Rivalry to summon our Anva. Anva can then pop a monster our opponent controls. So that's a 5th interruption. That will then allow us to trigger our Mistva. So then we can tribute the Anva to summon itself, and then pop the Gravity Controller, and ideally the used Varudros. We could also pop the used Vengeance Dragon, or if we have to, we could pop Warzone. I really don't want to, though, because that is our follow-up. So I'd recommend, honestly, you could also just pop Gravity Controller, but I'm going to say we do best case scenario, pop Gravity Controller and Varudros to place Wormwinds and Dino Domains. Depending on the matchup as well, you might not want to keep the Wyrmwinds on the field because the Wyrmwinds will actually hurt you because it'll mess with your Yummy plays, because if your Yummy monsters get banished, that feels really bad. But usually it's not a big deal. However, if it is a big deal, what we can then do is go Ryu-ge Rivalry, bottom deck Ryu-ge Wyrmwinds to draw a card. So, free card off of the Ryu-ge Rivalry. But anyway, this is 1, 2, 3 interruptions now. So this puts us up to 8 interruptions. Plus, the Varudros gets popped, allowing us to pop a card with the Varudros effect. So that is 9 interruptions, before we've even used any Yummy interruptions. Then we can go Rivalry, bottom deck Wyrmwinds, or use one of our other Realm effects to bottom deck Wyrmwinds. Ideally, though, we get Wyrmwinds bottom decked before we go Yummy Surprise to summon back our Cupsy Yummy Way. Then, when our opponent uses a monster effect, we are able to go Yummy Way effect to tag out into our Snatchy and any of our Yummy names, but effectively we can tag out into these. Cookie can pop a monster. Snatchy can quick sync into Cookie. So we're going to say this is 2 more interruptions. So effectively, this is 2 more interruptions on top of the 9 we already had. So effectively, this is 11 interruptions off of the singular Cookie Yummy we started with, and a single card in hand. Legitimately unbelievable end board. Probably the strongest end board I have ever made with Ryu-ge. The only thing the Melodious boards were not rivaling this, to be honest. Unbelievably strong end board. And that is the one thing I think this version of the deck has over something like over Mitsuyami, is the fact that the end board power is so high. Also, if, Mr. Habakiri gets banned, which I don't think is unreasonable to expect to happen at some point, this deck could be a consideration. Admittedly, the Ryu-ge cards have a lot of bricks in them, which has always been the issue with Ryu-ge, but it's an idea. Anyway, I think this deck's really cool. I think this is absolutely the best way to play Ryu-ge from now on. The power ceiling is super high. You have so many ways to beat Droll. You have just so many ways to beat hand traps in general. It's awesome. And theoretically, this deck should also be pretty good at pushing into boards, because the Ryu-ge cards have always been pretty good at that, depending on the type of interruption your opponent has. But into the interactions that our opponent should have into this deck should be really good into. I mean, honestly, if you have like an Ash or a Bell and a Ryu-ge starter into a deck like Draco Tail, that can do a ton of work by itself. So honestly, yeah, I think this deck is really, really strong. I would really recommend giving it a try, especially if you really enjoy Ryu-ge. And anyway, that would be it for the deck profile. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.